Welcome to the Spectation Sports UFC 264 preview show. My name is James Lynch, as always, joined by my co-host Adam Martin. Adam, how are you this afternoon?
Doing wonderful, James. Can't wait to talk about this card with you, my man. It feels like we've been, talking about these fights for over a decade as friends, man. I remember back in the day, James, we would talk about the fights. We weren't getting paid for it, man. We were just doing it for fun. Now we're getting paid to talk about the fights, so it's pretty great, man. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome, and a really good card coming up on Saturday. I know it's getting a little bit of hate, but we'll go through some of the fights. We're going to stick just with the main card in this breakdown, all the way up to the co-main event, Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson. Let's start with the first fight. One of those fights you don't see too often, where you're literally getting boxing odds, Adam. Sean O'Malley, a huge favorite against a newcomer, Chris Montinho. Of course, Chris stepping in for Louis Smolka, who's injured. Is there any value here on Montinho? I was curious your thoughts on that. I think all signs are pointing to O'Malley getting the job done here.
Yeah, you're right, James. UFC typically has really good matchmaking, so you don't see these kind of inflated odds very often. But I got to be honest, I feel like it's totally justified. Moutinho is making his debut in the UFC on short notice. Let's be honest, James. How many of us actually knew who this guy was a week ago? Probably not too many of us. I know that you have a lot of knowledge of the northeastern American scene, so you probably knew who this guy was. But a lot of us, he's kind of a newbie for a lot of us. So I'm watching his fights the other day, and he's not too bad, James, but it's this is a tough fight, man, against Sean O'Malley, a guy who's just so dangerous.
I'm with you as well. I would look at, see if there's some value there on the O'Malley knockout proper not inside the distance. He's probably not going to submit him. He's probably going to knock him out. That's kind of how I see this fight as well. All right, let's get into the next fight, which is the women's bantamweight fight. Irene Aldana, Yana Kunitsakaya. Two fighters really looking to get closer to that title shot. Right now, Aldana, a slight favorite on a lot of the books. Which way are you going on this one, Adam?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, James. Because Amanda Nunes has beaten almost everyone in that division right now, the winner of this fight will probably get a title shot if I had to guess. I know Aspen Ladd would also be in that mix, but she's pretty much beaten everything in this division except for these two. And it should be a pretty close fight. I mean, you obviously see the line change yourself, and it's basically close to even. It's slightly towards Aldana, which I'm not so sure about. I'll be honest, man. I think it's a close fight, but I'm leaning a little bit towards Kunitskaya, because I do think that her grappling's good enough, James, to maybe hold Aldana down.
I'm going the other way. I like Aldana as the slight favorite here. To me, it comes down to a couple of things. Level of competition. I know you could say the same thing for Kunitskaya. She's only lost to Cyborg, Aspen Ladd, a lot of other really good fighters, but so is Irene Aldana. I mean, she just lost to Holly Holm, who to me is, one of the top fighters in that division. Let's get to the heavyweights. Curious your thoughts on this one. Tai Tuivasa taking on Greg Hardy. Tai Tuivasa, the favorite. Greg Hardy looking to bounce back from that pretty brutal loss to Marcin Tybura. Who are you liking in this one, Adam?
Yeah, you know what, James? Greg Hardy, I think, gets a bad rap, obviously, for his past, and it's probably fair. I mean, let's be honest. But as an MMA fighter, he's not too bad, and I think a lot of people just hate on him because of his past with the domestic violence and everything. And again, understandably so, but I'm just looking at it as him from an MMA fighter's point of view when I talk about him, right? The guy's not bad. He's a good athlete. He's really big. He's long, obviously, everything like that. But James, to me, he's still really green as an MMA fighter, too. And I think we did see that against Tybura, and the way he shelled up and got TKO'd like that, to me, it's not a good sign. If you look at Hardy's wins, James, it's almost, I think all the guys aren't even in the UFC anymore. At least two races beat some guys that are still on the roster. Tai is not the biggest heavyweight, but he does pack a big punch. He's got a lot of power. I think he's probably the faster guy, too. I'm going to go with Tai Tuivasa in this one, James. I think he maybe knocked Greg Hardy out. No, we haven't seen Greg get knocked out in the feet. He was stopped with ground and pound his last fight, but I think Tai could do it potentially. So curious to hear your thoughts on this one, man, but I'm leaning towards Tai.
We're giving people their money's worth here. I'm going the other way. I like Greg Hardy in this fight. You just touched on it there. I think a lot of people are overlooking how good Hardy is. He just lost to Marcin Tybura, and last time I checked, that's a heavyweight that's really turned things around. He's on a nice winning streak himself. Curious to get your thoughts on the co-main event, though. Really interesting fight here. Gilbert Burns against Stephen Thompson. Right now, Stephen Thompson, a slight favorite in this one. Can Gilbert Burns bounce back from that loss to Kamaru Usman? And conversely, can Wonderboy Thompson get that title shot that he hasn't had in a couple of years now?
Yeah, great fight. And again, it's kind of like the Aldana and Kunitskaya fight. It's a striker-grappler matchup, essentially, James. It's a little simplistic to just call Burns just a grappler at this point because his striking is obviously a lot better now, but he probably will want to get this fight to the ground, and Thompson will probably want to keep it standing. I think that's fair to say. So it just depends who's going to be able to get the fight in the wheelhouse, James. I think Thompson can keep the fight standing. We've seen this guy defend a lot of takedowns in the UFC. Woodley got him down a few times, but it was hard to hold him down. Even those fights with Woodley in his prime, I thought he maybe won one of those fights. So yeah. I think Thompson right now is still, even though he's 38, James, I still think he's actually kind of in his prime. I still think he's still athletic. He's still fast. Burns is great. Don't get me wrong. I think he's definitely got a chance in this fight, but I don't know, man. Just see him get knocked out like that in his last fight by that jab really worries me against a guy like Thompson, who's so technical, James. I got to go with Wonderboy, man. I think it's probably going to be a decision. That's the way he's won his last two fights. I'm kind of thinking he just outpoints him, James. But what are you thinking in this one, man?
I'm going the same way here. I want to just preface this by saying I'm a big Gilbert Burns fan, one of the nicest guys in the sport, and I love watching this guy fight, but I think he's a tad overrated, Adam. And, people talk about Colby Covington not doing enough to earn himself a shot at Kamaru Usman. That's what Gilbert Burns did. He beat Tyron Woodley to get his title shot. I think people forget that. If you look at the list of fighters he's fought, Woodley, Damian Maia, who we know is past his prime, before that fought Gunnar Nelson, Kuchikano. These are guys that are not good fighters. Thompson's fought much better competition. Check out our video coming up for the main event on this channel here very soon, and we'll see you soon, and enjoy the fights this weekend.